Hello, welcome to another edition of Xfeed. My name's The Shiller. If you guys like this content, just a reminder, we do have some other things that you can enjoy. If you want to hear me talk about real world assets, I get to interview people every single week, and an episode dropped today where I actually interviewed Luke Netz. We talked a lot about, like, I guess, philosophy of what he believes in and the path that he's on. We got a lot of good life advice, we got a lot of perspective, and I thought it was a very, very cool interview and a little bit of a different setting that's in audio only, and that is down in the X bio or in the YouTube description. Would love for you guys to check that out. So the topic of the stream today, which if you guys are tuning in for the first time, we just talk NFTs, Web3 in general, and just kind of what we vibe with the space. But I realized earlier today, I think a lot of people have just fallen out of love with the brands. As I've been on my Pokemon journey, which of course, we got to highlight the Victini VMAX Rainbow card here. You're like, okay, so we were so obsessed with these things that there was nothing for them except for images that were on the blockchain. And then there was all these merch and everything that everybody was absolutely obsessed with. People that had similar profile pictures, and you guys instantly became best friends, potentially. And the trust aspect was also omega high, and it felt just fantastic. But as time's gone on here, we've kind of realized, hey, we want something a little bit more. And every team or somebody who's building a brand has gone down different paths. And some of you have joined that journey the entire time. Other ones, you might have steered back a little bit. But ultimately, I feel for a large majority that they've fallen out of love or they don't like as much as they did back before. Now, is that from like a lack of content? Is that from like a lack of expectations? I don't really know. But I want to kind of use this as like a couple of stories here because I have a few different tweets. So, oh, hold on. Are we drop frames? Let me know if we're still rocking and rolling here. There's a little bit of a thing that popped up on my end. Hopefully we're good. So I posted this video earlier. As you can see, we got a filter here on the mic, and I threw a party bear on this, right? And I just want to think of the branding. This is also just kind of like a general info bit. If you're listening to podcasts, I remember listening to like a Kevin Rose podcast once, like forever ago, when I first like tried learning out who he was because everybody made a big deal about him. I was like, this guy doesn't even edit half the audio in it, and you can hear it. But for this, here's a quick thing where I threw in a party bear talking about pop filters, which is this. Just wanting to highlight quickly what a pop filter can do. If you watch a lot of content, you might realize some people have it and some don't. So here's what it sounds like when you don't have it. My Pokemon adventure. Effort, pain, and suffering. We have some old basketball cards that I'm trying to move, and I just added a pop filter, and this is what it sounds like now. For Peter Piper, Pick a Pam, Peter. It's a small but noticeable detail, and hope you guys
yeah, look at the bird.
Don't have a bird that's chirping in the background. That would also kind of cause
Yo, Gio, what's going on? How are you?
So I threw a party bear in this. It's kind of, everything's got an idea behind it. And I'm like, okay, so for the people that look at this tweet, are they going to be like, damn, I know what that is. I absolutely love party bears. Do I have any connection to it other than, hey, maybe I know that that's a future first asset? If I threw my Bored Ape on there, how many people would have some sort of a reaction to that as well? Clonex, the list goes on and on and on. And does, when you see those things, make you pay attention more? Try to notice next time you see an NFT on your timeline, if you stop and be like, let me go and see what that is. Now, another example here, 10K TF with Yuga. They had the Gucci bags. People are trying to get rid of them, saying, we don't want them. We bought them because we thought at the time other people would want them. We loved the brand at the time, and we thought so many more people were going to as well. Now it's almost impossible to try to move these things. And this is a great tweet from NFT Bark Steve here, who's talking about the hype that some of the Bored Ape community had before and why it was cool and why we loved the brand. Listen, we had Jimmy Fallon talking with Paris Hilton. Neymar was rocking the ape gear. Steph Curry friggin' had it as his PFP. Eminem and Snoop Dogg were rocking it. We were in love with the brand image because it was associated with so many things that we love. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Do you guys remember Yu-Gi-Oh? I saw this on my timeline. This is some merch. I actually love it. Now, maybe that's strange as like an adult. I don't know if I'd ever buy it, but I genuinely love the design of it. And I remember back to when I used to watch the show as a kid, and I love the brand, and I've never fallen out of love arguably, with that. Now, am I going out and buying things necessarily? No, but still appreciate it very, very much. And then we come kind of just talking in general here, where, okay, somebody sees the Pudgy Penguins and this is their first interaction, where it's an arcade game somewhere. Do they love the brand? Do they love the game? How does it change over time? When marketing coming through on a fat tier 1 for 6 months. Oh my goodness. Half a year. Absolutely unbelievable. Thank you so much. And so from Yu-Gi-Oh! To Pudgy Penguins to Pokemon, 60 million games played of the TCG Live from their first year. 60 million games. Absolutely unreal. Crazy to think about, as we've seen some games talk about how much network traffic that could bring. Obviously, there's a lot of people trying to go within the card game, but look at this. 60 million games played. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And if you play, let me know, because I'm enjoying playing. Now, we're going to go down a little bit trip of memory lane, if you will. And throughout this, there's going to be some different projects that are highlighted that you might be familiar with, that you might not be. In web marketing, I don't know how I didn't already have that. I don't know how to use Twitch. I'm a noob. Hey, listen, you're here. That's all that matters. I remember back with NBA Top Shot, there was a few people that were like, yeah, we downloaded Twitch. It was the first time. And I think actually, for a couple people in Futureverse as well. I'm here for your OG marble races. LOL. Yo, hell yeah. Appreciate it. We need to get back into that. The last one we did was for the root name service name, which if you guys go back and you watch that stream fully, I make a joke about hitting me up. Well, not a joke, but like it was somewhat genuine of like, yo, hit me up on like Facebook Messenger, because the person who won it, I know like in real life. I forget exactly how he connected, but they watched the stream back with NBA Top Shot, and I hadn't seen them in the stream in forever, and they came by for that, and they actually won the name. And so like I DM'd them, I was like, hey, I have no idea if you ever branched out over Top Shot, but like let me know, we can hook you up with the name and all that kind of jazz. And he's like, yeah, I've not really followed things too much, but like I'll get around to it. Guy hasn't gotten back to me. Absolutely unbelievable. Anywho, one of the games from forever ago was actually this one called Bullyverse. Shouldn't say actually. But yeah. And now we're at 123,000 followers and only like 200 mutuals. That seems absolutely insane, because I follow like 5,000 people. This is on Epic. Again, this is something that I feel weird about, because when we have these games launch and everything, do you not feel that there's like this certain kind of oddity about, hey, this thing has like a massive amount of following. I've never really heard of anybody in particular talking about it. I've not seen gameplay of it. How is it not gotten out there? Is the game bad? And we have like all these preconceived notions. I feel, and maybe it's just me, right? Like, oh, I'm pretty judgmental over things, right? Just, because we can give opinions. Listen, how do you make a successful business? Figure out how to monetize people's opinions, and that's what's happened with X. I digress. Anywho, I think it's just kind of weird that it does feel like games kind of have that one shot, and I mean, for this one, 100,000 followers, and I feel like I haven't seen a lot, but I remember on the early days them talking about land and all these extra kind of facets to it. By the way, the person didn't claim Choose Rich yet and hasn't sent the info yet. We have time limit for these things. Okay, wow. Yeah, listen, I sent the message to them, and I'm just waiting for a response. But based on the fact that they haven't yet, if you can give me a quick reminder after this, I'll fire them another message. So we're keeping it in the treasury. Okay. Introducing Ember here from Play Ember Sword, or Ember Sword. This is one of the ones back with Guild of Guardians, a whole bunch of different collections that were kind of like earlier. There was a lot of, what's the right word? There was a lot of hype, I guess, or awareness that there was some very quality things that were launching, or assumed to be quality. I feel like Guild of Guardians fell under that umbrella. Ember Sword fell under that umbrella. And this, I believe, when most of these sales happened, were back in like 2021, and everybody was doing these land sales as well. I don't know if they've talked much about the token ever since. It's feel kind of like one of those things with Bullyverse. It's off to the side. I keep seeing like updates here and there for it, but like, is there going to be a big marketing push? Is the game going to end up getting traction? But they specifically says, use the Ember token to customize your characters and weapons with exclusive cosmetic items. And I feel like that's one of the first times I've seen a collection just say, hey, the token utility is customizing characters and weapons with cosmetics. Now, there could be a lot more to it than that, but on initial glance, that's kind of the way that the phrasing is. Is that good? Is it bad? I don't know, but the game does look interesting if you guys are wanting to check that out. Okay, so some news from Yuga Labs. Now, it's not directly from them, but Kook saying Yuga Labs made 124 mil in revenue in 2022, but after expenses still managed a net loss of the year of 11 million. Holy guacamole. So 123 mil in revenue, gross profit 106 million. There's some high-end expenses here for advertising, marketing, community. They spent $20 million for that. Professional services, 24. Payroll, 20 million. Total expenses, amongst everything else, 72 million. Oh my God. It seems kind of insane, but like when we're thinking about it, they've done Ape Fest, they've hired different artists. They are, I mean, like what else are they kind of doing except for like paying people for the most part? Because it feels like they've gone through like this weird turbulence that if you're not like totally familiar with all the situations, right? But there's been so many changes, it felt like, of leadership, the massive investments that came in, the royalty shakeup of the different markets, and the pivots as well amongst all of that. But holy jeez, apparently doing things in Web3 is expensive. Where the world collects, says Sergio. For anybody on audio, it's the graphic of Vivi, and it's got DC Comics, Disney, Coca-Cola, Lamborghini, Star Wars, 20th Century Fox, Marvel, all these kind of logos and stuff within the background. And it's just making me think, on the earlier days of things, I was always concerned when there was a brand that had a partnership that was more than just one thing. However, when you think of Pokemon, for example, you have the people that distribute the cards, there's people that make the different games, there's people that do the different shows, there's a whole bunch of different things, and it's not all done by the exact same people. So obviously, there's going to be these partnerships across the board. And, you know, when Cryptoys did their Star Wars things, and I see Vivi's got Star Wars, and there's been all these hints of Futureverse doing something with Star Wars, and you know, in my mind, I'm kind of like, like, I don't know if I love the aspect of like, these aren't like mutually exclusive partnerships. But then when you really think about it, you're like, no. These benefits the brands. It gets more, and it could, you know, having that brand elsewhere, bring more people into what it is. Now, yesterday, there was some interesting happenings with the New York Stock Exchange stocks. They just ended up completely crashing. They stopped trading on it. And so I saw all over my timeline, everybody saying, oh, this is the number one advertisement for crypto. But at the same time, if that actually happened where everything kind of collapsed, then everybody would have been kind of screwed. But I guess the system was in place where that could be prevented from happening. Now, obviously, they've done some things with the whole GME thing, and I get the aspect of, hey, this is a good advertisement for crypto, but at the same time, it's like, well, people would have been super screwed if those things weren't in place. Jesus Martinez saying Justin Ronin launches $55 Coinbase Learning Rewards campaign. Now, what's weird about this is like the reward says $55 Ronin, which I'm like, okay, is that $55 in Ronin? Is this 55 Ronin? And then I looked and Ronin's like $3, so yeah, it's just $55 US. Apparently takes 9 minutes. It's 11 tasks, and you can learn about Ronin. I believe this is on Coinbase. So if you happen to have an account, that is, I guess, one way to mass market people to get Ronin in different wallets. Now, wallets. Seeing a little bit of a wallet wars, if you will. You might not have noticed it, but apparently for the Rabby wallet, which they only are on desktop here, had a claim for their token. It ended on the 31st. I saw Otto saying here we had to actually claim with the question mark, and it seems that there's a fair amount of people that didn't know there was a token drop that you had to claim. Still feels weird that we have these kind of systems that people like miss things. Maybe they're just not like super paying attention. Maybe it's that, you know, the protocol's fault for not making things obvious, but it is kind of weird that we're at like 2024 and certain aspects of, hey, this person could do this. And, you know, I guess interoperability of the blockchain should kind of work for everything. But I guess if you have to claim at a certain time, you have to claim at a certain time. Now, Vader Research posted this, which I feel like we went over at some point from somebody else, and I don't know if they like took from that, added to it, whatever. But it's talking about the different funding rounds to date, and it goes all the way down to places or companies that raised about 30 million. Notice how Futureverse is never on these, and they raised over 50. Just note it. Listen, talk about undervalued. Unbelievable. Now, as we've highlighted too, we're seeing more and more blockchains starting to offer incentives and builder rewards out there. As an example, the other day, the Say network for some of their top NFTs dropped a whole bunch of Say token, and Optimism here is saying that they're allocating 600,000 Optimism tokens or 1.4 million in rewards for on-chain summer incentives. Creators and builders building on the superchain, including Optimism, Mainnet, Base, Mode, Zora, and more, may be eligible. So, seems like you're at the right place at the right time. So, Crypto Stash here, playing a little bit of Bloodloop. This is one of the more, I guess, hyped up games and more recognized ones across the space. Kind of interesting to see. It immediately gives me the vibes of kind of like a Fortnite Overwatch. It's weird seeing like all these games because I feel like there's at a point where like you can only do so many different things within like a video game setting that's like a competitive 1v1 that's a shooter game, right? Like all these things seem very similar, but I think it doesn't look too bad. Now, Matthew A tagging me in this, and this is the most egregious thing I've ever seen. So it's a Variety post. They say Amazon Prime Video has ordered a reboot of the iconic competition series American Gladiators, and is currently searching for contenders that can pass the test of speed and strength to take on the gladiators in the ring. And he tags me. Okay. First of all, I'm Canadian, so I'm not going for anything that's American Gladiators because I wouldn't fit the bill. Second of all, that's just not happening. Unbelievable. So, question here for you: would you live in this space? For anybody that's on audio, it's a graphic of somebody that's living in space above Earth here, in a very high-tech realm. Looks like you have a computer that's attached. Everything's attached because there is no gravity in space. And it just makes you think, is this the metaverse? When we visualize something and say, hey, what could that world look like if we could actually live in it? And then boom, you can make that happen. That's the metaverse. Right. Okay, more wallet news here. Magic Eden. I don't really get what the hell's going on, to be totally honest, but they're saying you might be early with the eyeball emojis and then adding the Magic Eden wallet. I've used the Magic Eden wallet, the fact that it's got Bitcoin support amongst basically everything else. It's really easy to use. I think it's really, really cool. Yeah, I guess we'll just kind of wait to see more on that. Now, the brands out there, speaking of Bored Ape Yacht Club here, and again, of course, have an ape, love an ape, all that kind of stuff. These are always just, friendly opinions or perspectives. It's crazy that they're like personally welcoming people on the social handles that buy an ape. Imagine buying a Bored Ape back in the day and getting recognized by like the official account. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Kind of cool to see, but it does highlight the aspect of there's, now that we've gotten through kind of that initial, hey, why, Yahoo hype phase, we are at a time where you can kind of handhold and be more individualistic, because I think people always want that kind of like one-on-one treatment, if you will. All right, we got some Futureverse trailer going on here. Take a look at this. So there's a little bit of a rundown there. So my thoughts kind of on this are, first of all, the ray guns look kind of weird. Like, I get that it's a ray gun, but it feels like it's kind of like odd bolts of light that are going around. Then they, like left trigger hold and then like shoot the ball. It feels a little weird. I think that the only, what's the right phrasing? The only problem I have with this is everything looks insane, but I feel like the avatars still like aren't that like as high fidelity as you would want. Like obviously this is Twitter, so the animation's screwed, but I think the car, the setting, everything in the worlds look amazing, but I just can't get over the avatars not looking as clean as you would think for something that's like trying to be like super futuristic. And it's weird because the digital uh like the wearables, if you will, they look like they're higher quality. When you look at standstill of the uh swappables, equipables, whatever you want to call them, like the Reebok shoes, those all look amazing. The different jackets and whatnot looks really, really cool. But in motion, I'm just like, if I don't know why that everything looks so great, and then like the avatars are still like a little bit off. But again, like the portal up top looks absolutely incredible. These ships, everything around it. I mean, even the detail on the guns look really cool, even though the shooting looks a little bit weird. But I'm curious what the takes of people that aren't in the Web3 space are, right? Because I've been paying attention to Futureverse forever. I'm obviously going to play this. I like the Ready Player One movie, which everything is kind of based off of out there. But what do people ultimately think of this, and how are they going to react? IGN made a post on this, and there was a lot of people that were very aggressively shooting this down. I think a good portion of it was because of like the Web3 angle, a part of it, the blockchain interoperability. You kind of get that for a point, but at the same time, it did feel like they were somewhat highlighting what I did regarding some of the graphics. And it's just for the avatars. It's just the avatars. So we'll see. Now, Honeyland here is something that is building over on Solana, saying the cheapest play Honeyland B is about $7 right now. In the last 3 weeks, players have been able to sell $100,000 worth of items to each other that they earned hunting with bees, just like this in-game. Asset earning assets are where the value is. So I think that's an interesting point. I kind of agree with it. I think that there's always been this notion of NFTs offering some sort of yield. For 99.9% of them, that yield has been part of a token, maybe points for something. But when it's kind of these, actual assets within like a digital economy of some sort, I think that's when things change up a little bit. And so really cool to see that that is working over in Honeyland. Roham here with a lengthy post about NBA Top Shot and a legal resolution. I remember back when NBA Top Shot was popping off, they were having hella times with processing people's approval for withdrawals. And there was this one guy that was just losing his mind over it, saying, I'm going to sue them and all these other things. I don't know if that ever ended up happening. But then I saw this announcement. I was like, legal resolution? Like, was it that? But it seems like it's something a little bit different. After discovery, it was understood and agreed that Flow blockchain is a decentralized public network and that the digital collectibles like NBA Top Shot are not securities in the same way trading cards are not securities. So again, this kind of goes back to the jargon that was used by Brad Garlinghouse about Ripple not being a security. So a lot of these altcoins in general aren't as well, and trying to set the precedent. These were the main allegations we wanted to prove, and continuing to litigate would have been a distraction from our core mission. The settlement also involves Dapper Labs reaffirming its commitment to the decentralization of Flow, as well as confirming the full transfer of all Flow coins as part of the ecosystem development reserve to the Flow Foundation. Dapper Labs does, and will continue to be a major holder of Flow and a major builder in the Flow ecosystem. The future of our product is fully open and composable, letting owners do anything they want with their assets and letting developers build new and innovative experiences without traditional limits. This includes working alongside existing third parties and platforms like FanCraze, AI, Sports Pro, Own the Moment, Floaty, and others. Now, what's interesting with this, and there's a lot more here, where I'm not going to go into all of it, but I saw some people that were highlighting saying, like, where does it say that, like, yeah, Top Shot's not securities and all that kind of stuff? Because there hasn't been necessarily a post by this, but I think, overall, I don't know why he would be phrasing that as like, hey, here's we just finished everything in court. Here's basically what we found, and like that, it just doesn't seem to make sense that would be a lie. But anyway, still, always do your own research on these topics that we're going over. Now, of course, we are starting to see the metaverse hit mainstream. From IGN, furniture store IKEA will pay people 13.15 euros per hour to work in a virtual store. It's opening inside Roblox. Now, on the RWA segments podcast that I do, I interviewed a guy called Jake from Watches. And I asked that question to him. I was like, so this whole metaverse idea. It's like, is there a way that watches are going to get into it? It seems that they're kind of tiny to be able to see on these avatars, maybe. And the first thing I think he went into was talking about how there's going to be these virtual stores and assistants, and you can have that one-of-one conversations and just doing things differently kind of from your own home. So does that mean that sales are coming back in a big way? Listen, you need Schiller as a salesman? Let me know. Might charge a little bit more than like £13. Actually, I don't know. Hold on. The Canadian conversion, that might be like $30. Never mind. I'm sold. Let me know. But still kind of crazy. IKEA trying to do something within the metaverse, but it's just online, which goes back to the notion of people saying that the metaverse is just the internet. True. Stats coming through saying, today I learned that 3 Arrow Capital owned a complete set of Gold Fur, Bored Ape Yacht Club, 2 mutants, and a Kennel Club dog, which is coming up for auction on Sotheby's. Oh my goodness, guys. Apparently the markets are back because we are putting Grail Bored Ape Yacht Clubs up for auction at traditional auction houses. That's crazy to me. But they paid 95 ETH for the BAYC and 11 ETH for the dog, and the mutants were magically created. They had to probably buy the serums for it, but I guess that's not included with this. Either way, for a full gold set here, do you think that it is going to get more than 100 ETH? What is 100 ETH? That is 521,000 Canadian. $521,000 Canadian. This is what they paid back in 21. Will they get that again? I have no idea, but will be interesting to see. And Michael saying this 2021 relic will come up to auction in a few days. Let's see where this is going today. Now, I don't think I've ever seen an NFT referred to as a 2021 Grail before. Usually it's a, Bored Ape Grail. It is a Fluff World Grail. It is a Yuga Grail. No, it is a 2021 Grail. Crazy. Okay, so similar to the post earlier about some of the different raises that happened, let's look at some of the NFT mints coming in from whale.mocha. So other side, $316 million they end up getting. Mutant Ape Yacht Club, 91 million. CloneX, 81 million. Pixelmon, 74 million. Lost Poet, 66 million. Moonbird, 60 million, now acquired by Yuga. Azuki Elementals, 38 million. World of Women Galaxy, 34 million. Azuki, 31 million. PXN, 30 million. Imposter Genesis, 25 million. Full set Metacard, 23 million, and more. We're not going to go through all of it, but it is insane how much money went into all of these different collections. And the question that everybody kind of has within the space, and it feels like there's this, awkwardness that I feel at a point where it's like, hey, yeah, like I totally get why people are hesitant about the NFT space, because look at the insane amounts that have been put into this, and obviously things take time, but at the same time, like everything's just going to get judged based on how quick it comes out, how good is it, and everything that happens kind of in between. But this is over $1 billion just right here with some of the top mints. Unbelievable. Freaking believable. Now, if you didn't know, ChatGPT was down for like 10, 15 hours today. If you didn't know, well, I guess you just don't use it, because otherwise you're probably absolutely freaking out over it. And Illuvium, their official game launch July 25th, 2024. Rangers, the moment we've all been eagerly awaiting, anticipating, has finally arrived. We now have a confirmed launch date. Illuvium officially launches July 25th. Why July? Well, we could launch sooner. We're trying to squeeze in some exciting new features to make the launch even more impactful. Arena, Gauntlet Mode, new weapon systems, overworld, combat, a whole bunch of other stuff, bada, bada, bada. There's a whole thing down below, but then on the 7th, which is in a few days, they are going to have their official trailer. Again, the conversation around the initial launches of these games. I saw somebody post earlier today, I forget who it was, apologies, but they were talking about how like most games lose like 90% of their players within like a week after launch, are something unbelievable. And so I am going to be so excited if Illuvium drops. People have been playing all these different games and end up nobody leaves after a week. Guys, listen, we need one of these games to pop off and really bring the excitement because we're desperate. Listen, respectfully, we're desperate. Mojave, good morning. How are you? How are you? Rice Farmer, it's crazy that we are literally given the solution to the collapsing financial systems in crypto, and yet 90% of young people are fading it. I've tried to help my friends, but to no avail. It's sad because they'll only understand when they're poor and it's too late. Okay, that is crazy. Now, it's funny because some people will have a reaction of, wow, that guy's talking down to people. On the other side of the spectrum, people are like, this guy's totally right. Why is there a bunch of people that, aren't paying attention to what's going on? But at the same time, when we're in the trenches, I was watching Bill Noble stream earlier, and he's talking about how there was like 400,000 coins that have been created in like 2024, like just on Solana. And he made like the joke about like, are we creating tangible value with this, or something about that, about like advancing the industry with 400,000 new tokens? And so there's so many good things and so many bad things within the space that it's really confusing. I think unless you're really sold on the idea of crypto, you owning your things, the aspect of trying to, I don't know if break away from the system is the right terminology, because I don't know if it's necessarily breaking from the system versus like having alternative options, right? Like people, one thing that like was the strangest thing that I found, and this is just like from my point of view, is anybody that like I ever talked to within the space that wanted to like give an opinion back to me, almost all of them were like, you need to diversify, you need to diversify, you need to diversify. And I still think back to like when I first got into the space, and obviously like we had a little bit of success with NBA Top Shot, and then we got into Bored Apes, and I had like 24 minted Bored Apes, and some of them were like pretty decent. I'll bring up the photos for you guys sometime. But I was so enthralled by everything else that was going around. If I just had that like that conviction, and I didn't diversify the way that I did, I'd have been way better off just holding those apes for, comparatively looking back at what it was. And I always just thought that like that was kind of interesting. But here it is. Here's a way to potentially diversify from having cash in whatever country you are to having some other assets to having crypto. And yeah, I agree. Most people just don't really look at that whatsoever. Kind of weird. Oh, final thing here. Sorry, I realized there was one more tab. The first CryptoPunk sale in the 20s in nearly 3 years. Wrapped CryptoPunk going for 28.56 ETH, $107 US. Now, obviously, CryptoPunks have been below $100,000 in terms of ETH value, but kind of crazy to see the grail of grails, or so we say, going for below 30 ETH. Is NFTs capitulating? Do we still have more to go? That's the question. But I think what's really needed, and back to the point of the original start of this video, is that people need to fall back in love with these brands, whether it's TV shows, whether it's personalities, whether it's content. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have stopped loving what they once loved. Is there a way to even rekindle that? For some people, no. But for some, yes. And that's your thought of the day to work on. Thank you guys so much for coming through. I really appreciate you hanging out. Mojave, When Marketing, and Geo, appreciate you guys coming through. Sorry, no marbles race today. But with that being